Okay guys, with this new chapter 1033, I was literally holding my breath the entire chapter. Yes, it was a crazy chapter, but even more so, the video I was working on to get out this week is literally about the same thing. I cannot believe it. You know how I've been talking about the spirits within objects? Like, go back to my previous videos. I was preparing it for this next bigger video that I was going to put out, and then this chapter was the capstone to that video. It's literally insane. Okay, so definitely go watch that next video about the true nature of curses. I already had it recorded and made, so I couldn't tweak it in time for this chapter, but it's crazy how it's connected to this chapter. Anyways, this video has spoilers from chapter 1033, so if you aren't caught up, get caught up, like now. Like, these chapters are insane. You're missing out. So this chapter is called Shimotsuki Kozaburo. I'm literally, like, I can't even say the name without needing to run around the room to get rid of this energy in me. But okay, we get an opening with Zoro versus King, and I love it. An entire chapter about Zoro. It says Zoro has to deal with a rogue sword. The battle between Zoro and King gets briefly paused for the battle between Zoro and Enma, and it's so tangible that even King notices it. Zoro is able to pull together to make an attack on King, and this panel was pretty key. We see King take a direct hit, and King seems like he's pleased with it, and then he explodes. I have so many thoughts, so it seems like King's power is some kind of kinetic energy converter where he is able to take kinetic energy and distribute it as fire, or in this case, high kinetic energy turns into an explosion. This is an insane power because it seems like even slashes are negated and converted. Honestly sounds crazy and relates to my energy conversion theory aspect of Haki, but maybe it's like Lunarians have some kind of special attribute in relation to armament Haki where they're able to, instead of absorb and deflect damage, they figured out how to convert the energy dealt to them and redirect it outwards. But just a quick flashback down memory lane, if you watch my double eye theory video, I had mentioned the first panels where Mihawk was introduced, where the Bharatiya crew, instead of recognizing Hawkeye, said we know a red eye. They said that this particular guy got drunk, his eyes turned red, and spontaneously combusted. Those panels weren't included in the anime for some reason, and maybe it's because it would be too confusing because we'd have to wait like 1,000 episodes for that to be relevant, but I had an inkling that the person that they were talking about might actually be a Lunarian, and now seeing King's power, maybe that's real. Like, Oda is trying to hint at a Lunarian going to the Bharatiya besides King. I can't think of any other connections, but spontaneously combusting? Boom! Connection back to the beginning of One Piece. Anyways, the next page goes to Sanji and King, and it talks more about King, saying that King is a surviving Lunarian who are monsters that could thrive and survive in any inhospitable environment. So that reminds me of my Haki strengthening video, how I was saying it seems like the best way to train Haki is to survive extreme environments. So if King's race is one that endured that level of torture naturally, then that means they might also be a race that has natural aptitude for insanely high levels of Haki, which again elucidates the unique way King is able to seemingly convert energy. Queen says in the distant past, they were considered gods. And Sanji asks the golden question, how could beings like that get wiped out? And that is golden because, yeah, if we're building up Lunarians to be this indestructible race, how are they destroyed? And I think this point is important for both Sanji and Zoro. Queen earlier said that Sanji's abilities resembled a Lunarian's ability, despite not being as potent as King's. This is interesting because it seems like besides King, Queen is the next expert on Lunarians. Probably as a scientist, he studied things about King. And Sanji does seem like he has the ability to convert energy into other forms. Like if we think back to the first time he used his fire leg, he was getting pounded on by Jabra, and Sanji's durability was always a thing, and then he was able to turn his leg on fire. That could be a tiny manifestation of what King is demonstrating here, but also maybe through a different mechanism because Sanji is seemingly able to convert his emotional energy into fire as well. Then the question is also important for Zoro because the answer to the question is what will allow Zoro to win. And can I just say, my Zoro power-up theory? How do you beat someone who tanks physical realm attacks? You use attacks that damage the soul and spirit. Watch my Zoro video. I swear to God, if Zoro pulls out some soul damaging ability here in WANO, I will lose it for the 6th time while making these videos. I need to get my videos out. Like, it literally feels like I'm racing against Oda right now. Okay, and quick side note, but you know what else made me think of King's ability? It was really random and weird, but the dials, the impact dial absorption and power conversion. So I'll put a tab on that and come back to it at a later video. Okay, but moving on. Zoro is seen to survive the explosion, as does King. Zoro survived the explosion with armament haki. I think this is important because in the last week or two, I had this idea that King might be a peak haki user but for armament. The idea being that if Katakuri was peak observation haki and that led to future sight, then King is peak armament haki user and has some ridiculous extension like this power converter ability. Peak armament could be why his wings are black, but when King is defeated, maybe his wings will turn white? Not sure about that, to be honest, but this next page where Zoro uses one of his strongest attacks and King tanks it, they show this panel of King where he is like chin up, and to me, it looks like he enjoyed that. This might be why he wears a BDSM suit. I swear, I was joking when I called it a BDSM suit, but it might actually be that King is a masochist. So he probably gets hit with damage and he makes a cringe face that's super embarrassing. Like he probably starts blushing or something even more, which would explain why he wouldn't want anyone to see that. Then we have Enma mid-fight sapping Zoro's haki again. This next part of the chapter is where my video that I had written already starts being relevant. It's insane how much I connected without seeing this chapter. This line in particular, I said in the video, a swordsman being beaten by his own sword. That's significant to my video and the Sandai Kitetsu because that is what was previously deemed as a cursed sword. Looking through the rest of the chapter, I don't want to comment too much because I want you guys to watch my other video on this. But like me, finally Zoro connected the dots and remembered his hometown, but more than that, Shimotsuki Kozaburo. This is what he looked like. Do you guys remember the personifications of the swords that I showed you before? Oda put them in the SBS years ago. Tell me the Wado Ichimonji does not look like young Shimotsuki Kozaburo. I will admit, in my video, I was slightly wrong about Shimotsuki Kozaburo. It seems him and Kitetsu had a similar mindset. Though, what Kozaburo says about the true purpose of swords here, that they were meant to take people's lives, that seems more like the Kitetsu swords curse rather than the Wado Ichimonji and Enma. If I keep reacting to this chapter, it's literally going to be me rolling around saying, watch my other video, because I can't believe this timing. This panel, each blade is like a person with a unique disposition. I highlighted that in the video. Then what he says about swords being called curses and how that concept is really interesting to me, he puts in his 2 cents, that it's the perspective of the weak, which is also interesting because his swords aren't considered cursed, but Kitetsu's swords are. And he says that the swords being cursed, according to the weak, is a sign of success for that sword, which is a roundabout way of saying that he thinks Kitetsu's swords are insane compared to his that weren't deemed cursed swords. The rest of the chapter, just to sum it up so you guys can go watch my video, I wish I had the name Enma, Lord of the Underworld, before making my video, but I still had enough to go on to make my points. And then we see Zoro realizing what Enma was actually doing. Similar to Sandai Kitetsu, Zoro had to do something to prove his worth. He immediately knew what he needed to do with his Kitetsu to prove it. That was his demonstration and sacrifice of his arm. He knew immediately that this was the way to get Sandai Kitetsu to accept him. In this case, he didn't understand what would make Enma like him, and now he knows. He has to show Enma the extent of his willpower, which means that Oden at one point poured all of his haki into Enma and Enma became obedient. We don't know if Oden did this in the middle of a fight, but Zoro is realizing this in arguably the hardest fight that he has had to date. And it's not just Ryo and armament, we see Zoro pouring in his Conquerors as well, which to people who still don't understand that Conquerors haki is demonstrated in the manga by making people foam at the mouth, here is like the 100th example of it. Zoro uses his Conquerors and boom, all the fodder around him faint with foam at the mouth. It's not that complicated. And then we see Zoro's swords. All 3 have Ryo and then Black Lightning, which demonstrate 2 haki types into his swords. I just want to circle back to the swords testing Zoro. In my video, I was saying that the Wado Ichimonji probably also has a personality. You want to know something crazy? The Wado Ichimonji probably never tested Zoro because it already accepted him, because the Wado Ichimonji is literally young Shimotsuki Kozaburo. And on top of that, Oda gave us these 2 drawings about 2 years ago. Now I'm curious to know how these other personifications will relate going forward. Then Zoro says this, he made a promise to his captain and oldest friend. Is his oldest friend referring to Luffy or Kuina? In any case, these chapters have me literally steaming every week. There's something that is connecting back to my theories, and I just want to clarify. I never make these theories to be 100% accurate. I know sometimes I'm stretching and it's the most plausible stretches to me, so even if part of my theories are true, that's cool. But also like the parts of the theories that are connecting are lining up with the parts that relate to like like the foundation of the theories. Anyways, I'm so excited for the next chapters. See you guys on the next Parvision. Also, I'm really new to Reddit and the One Piece subreddit. Earlier I had said that I would post on Reddit myself, but honestly, if you guys want to post up my past videos and like tag me on whatever and give me credit, I'm on there as Parvision also. I will try to be active there as soon as possible, and soon I'll be able to post my own theories on Reddit as soon as I get a handle on my videos right now. I want to get ahead of my videos and these chapters. I have about 16 tabs open with all different scripts, so that means at the minimum there's 16 videos waiting for you guys. I just need help getting more traction and making all my videos more worth it. Thank you again.